True confidence isn't about arrogance or pretending you know everything. The Stoics discovered 2,000 years ago that unshakable confidence comes from 3 internal habits you can cultivate starting today. While most people seek confidence in external validation, approval from others, or material achievements, ancient philosophers knew that the only confidence that can never be taken from you is that built on solid internal foundations. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal 3 Stoic habits that keep you confident in any situation, even when everything is falling apart around you. And you'll discover why trusting yourself all the time isn't selfishness, but the only rational way to live. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful emperor of the ancient world, wrote something in his private meditations that completely destroys our culture obsessed with likes and approval. Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. He governed millions, but didn't allow anyone's opinion to determine his sense of worth. Why? Because he understood that confidence based on external approval is false confidence that collapses the moment approval disappears. The Stoics practiced something radical. They trusted their own judgment above all else. Not because they were arrogant, but because they recognized a fundamental truth. You are the only person who lives inside your head 24 hours a day. You know your intentions, your values, your complete context. Other people only see fragments and judge through the distorted filters of their own experiences. When you hand over your sense of confidence to others' opinions, you're essentially saying, people who don't know my complete context should determine my worth. That's not humility. That's abdication of responsibility. The Stoic habit is simple but transformative. Before making any important decision, ask yourself, is this aligned with my deepest values? If it is, trust your judgment and execute, regardless of what others think. Epictetus, who went from slave to influential philosopher, taught his students to distinguish between what's under their control and what isn't. Your judgment, totally under your control. Others' opinion about your judgment, completely outside your control. Confident people understand this distinction and stop wasting energy trying to control the uncontrollable. But here's the part most people miss. Trusting your judgment doesn't mean never changing your mind. It means trusting your process of evaluating evidence, considering perspectives, and reaching conclusions. The Stoics were obsessed with reason and logic. They trusted themselves because they knew they were constantly refining their thinking through honest reflection. So when you develop the habit of examining your decisions rationally, you naturally trust more in the conclusions you reach. And that confidence is unshakable because it doesn't depend on anyone validating it. There's a paradox in Stoic confidence that confuses modern people. The Stoics practiced something called premeditatio malorum, negative visualization, where they regularly imagined everything going wrong. This seems the opposite of confidence, right? Wrong. It's the deepest source of confidence that exists. Seneca explained, when you contemplate the worst possible scenario and realize you can survive it, you remove the fear that destroys confidence. Lack of confidence rarely comes from real incompetence. It comes from unexamined fear of failure. Your brain builds imaginary monsters about what might happen if you try and fail. And these monsters paralyze you. The Stoic habit of visualizing the worst kills these monsters by bringing them into the light. I'll start this business and fail completely? Maybe. So what? I go back to my previous job, learn valuable lessons, try again with more wisdom. Nobody dies. My identity doesn't disintegrate. The earth keeps spinning. When you practice this habit regularly, something extraordinary happens to your confidence. It becomes unshakable because it's no longer based on guarantee of success. It's based on certainty that you can handle any outcome. The Stoics called this internal confidence versus external confidence. External confidence says, I feel confident because I'm sure I'll succeed. Internal confidence says, I feel confident because I know I can handle success or failure with equanimity. Marcus Aurelius faced wars, plagues, betrayals, economic crises. He mentally prepared for the worst every day. And ironically, This preparation made him act with extraordinary optimism. Why? Because when you've already mentally confronted the worst, the present loses its power to scare you. You act with courage, not because you have no fear, but because you've already processed the fear and decided it's worth acting anyway. This is the habit that creates invincible confidence. Here's where most people completely destroy their confidence. They measure their worth by the results they achieve, not by the actions they take. And results aren't totally under your control. You can do everything right and still fail due to external factors. And when you tie your confidence to results, you're building on quicksand. The Stoics had a radical solution. Focus totally on the process, which is 100% under your control, and detach from the result, which isn't. Epictetus used the metaphor of an archer. The archer controls his posture, breathing, focus, the moment he releases the arrow. All of this is process, but once the arrow is in the air, he controls nothing more. Wind can change, target can move, the arrow can have a defect. If he measures his worth by hitting the target, his confidence collapses every time external factors conspire against him. But if he measures his worth by mastery of process, he can feel confident every day, regardless of how many targets he hits. The Stoic habit that builds permanent confidence is this. At the end of each day, ask yourself not, "What did I accomplish?" but, "Did I act according to my values? Did I give my best with what was under my control? If yes, you won." Results are bonus, not the measure of your worth. When you internalize this, your confidence becomes independent of external circumstances. You can lose your job, relationship, money, but if you acted with integrity and gave your best, your confidence remains intact because it's anchored in something no one can take away: your own actions. Seneca observed that people tie their happiness and confidence to things that fortune can destroy: wealth, status, approval. And then they live in perpetual anxiety because they know, subconsciously, that their confidence is built on fragile things. But when you build confidence on your actions, on living according to principles, on giving your best regardless of results, you create something fortune cannot touch. True and permanent confidence comes from 3 internal Stoic habits. Trust your own judgment above others' opinions, because you're the only person qualified to evaluate your complete context. Prepare for the worst regularly, so you can act with optimism, knowing you can handle any outcome. And measure your worth by your virtuous actions, not by results you don't completely control. These 3 habits create unshakable confidence that remains solid, even when everything around you crumbles. If this video transformed how you think about confidence, leave your like now. Subscribe to the channel for more practical Stoic wisdom that changes lives. And remember, trusting yourself all the time isn't arrogance when that confidence is built on rational and virtuous foundations.